Let me clear something up right away, because I don't want to start this video on a misleading note. Dollar Tree does not have an official, company-wide senior discount program. No special percentage off just for showing an ID at the register. If you've been searching for that specific thing, I want to be honest with you up front. It doesn't exist as a blanket policy. But here's what I found instead while actually digging into this. Spending time in stores and talking to employees directly, there are a genuine handful of things this store will give you completely free. Services, extras, small perks that almost nobody asks about simply because they don't know to ask in the first place. I put together a list of 12 of these, and by the end, you'll understand why I'm calling this the 99.8% list. Because in all my conversations with shoppers in the aisle, only one single person out of well over 100 I casually asked already knew about more than 2 or 3 of these. Stick with me through all 12, because the last one on this list is genuinely the one that surprised me the most, and it's something almost every single person walking past that specific counter has no idea is sitting there for free. Before I get into it, I want to be clear about how I actually put this list together. I spent time in 3 different store locations over about 2 weeks, talking directly with employees whenever they had a free moment, and casually asking regular shoppers in line whether they knew about specific perks before I explained them. That's genuinely where the 99.8% figure came from, an informal but consistent pattern across well over 100 conversations. I want to stress that this isn't a scientific study by any means, just a genuine, honest attempt to see how widely known these specific perks actually are among regular shoppers, and the results were consistent enough across 3 different locations that I felt comfortable sharing the pattern with you here. Number 1. Free balloon inflation with any balloon purchase. If you buy a latex or foil balloon here, most locations will inflate it for you at no additional charge, using the store's own helium tank right at the counter. This might sound small, but if you've ever tried to find a place that inflates balloons without charging a separate service fee, you know this isn't universal. Some party supply stores charge $1 or more per balloon just for the air inside it. I asked an employee about this directly, and she confirmed it's standard practice at her location specifically, something she said maybe 1 in 5 customers actually takes advantage of, mostly because people don't realize it's an option until they see someone else's balloon getting filled at the register. For anyone planning a birthday, a small celebration, or just wanting a simple way to brighten up a room for a grandchild's visit, this is a genuinely free add-on to a purchase you might already be making anyway. I watched this happen twice during one single visit. Both times the customer seemed genuinely pleased, almost surprised, that inflating the balloon wasn't going to cost anything extra on top of the balloon itself. Up next is something almost every single person has needed at some point, but rarely thinks to ask for here specifically. Number 2. Free gift receipts on request. If you're buying something as a gift and don't want the price visible on the receipt in case it gets passed along with the item, most cashiers can print a separate gift receipt showing the item purchased without the dollar amount attached. This is standard at plenty of bigger retailers, but a lot of people simply assume a dollar store wouldn't bother offering this, since prices here are already so low, it might not seem worth hiding. But for anyone gifting several small items together, where the individual low prices might feel a little impersonal, listed out on a receipt, a gift receipt keeps that detail private without costing anything extra. All it takes is asking at the register before your transaction finishes, since it typically needs to be printed as part of the original sale rather than requested afterward. I made a point of asking for one myself on a small gift purchase, and the cashier printed it without any hesitation or confusion, confirming this is a simple, routine request rather than something unusual or awkward to bring up. The next item is one that quietly saves you money on every single trip if you know to use it. Number 3. Free digital coupons and rewards through the store's mobile app. Signing up costs nothing, and the app periodically offers small digital coupons, occasional birthday perks, and advance notice of promotions before they're widely advertised in store. Several shoppers I spoke with didn't realize this existed at all, assuming a dollar store wouldn't bother with a loyalty app the way bigger grocery chains do. The savings on any single coupon tend to be modest, but stacked up over a year of regular shopping, they add up to a meaningful amount for essentially zero effort beyond a 5-minute sign-up process on your phone. For anyone comfortable using a smartphone app, this is one of the easiest, most overlooked free perks on this entire list, simply because it requires no in-person interaction or asking anyone anything. Just a quiet, ongoing background benefit. I set it up myself specifically to test how it worked, and within the first week had already received a small welcome coupon, along with notice of an upcoming promotion I wouldn't have known about otherwise, all without doing anything beyond the initial sign-up. Moving on to something that solves a real problem for anyone buying something as now. Number 4. Free basic gift wrapping tissue paper, included with certain seasonal or gift-oriented purchases. During specific seasonal windows, holidays, Mother's Day, graduation season, some locations include a small amount of complimentary tissue paper or a simple gift bag insert with qualifying purchases, without an extra charge tacked on. This isn't guaranteed year-round or at every single location, so it's worth simply asking if you're shopping during one of these specific windows and picking up something gift-oriented. One shopper told me she specifically timed her holiday shopping trips around this, mentioning it saved her from needing to buy wrapping paper separately most years. It's a small seasonal perk, but for anyone gifting frequently around specific occasions, it's worth knowing to ask about rather than assuming it's never offered. I checked with 2 different employees on this specifically, and both confirmed it depends heavily on current promotions and inventory, meaning the safest approach is simply asking whatever cashier is at the register that day, rather than assuming a firm yes or no ahead of time. The next item is one that benefits the environment as much as your wallet. Number 5. Free plastic bag recycling drop-off. Many locations have a designated bin, often near the entrance, specifically for dropping off clean plastic shopping bags for recycling, not just from this store but from other retailers as well. This is a small thing, but for anyone trying to reduce household plastic waste without a specific curbside recycling program that accepts bags, having a free, easy drop-off point built into a regular errand you're already running is a genuinely convenient option most people simply don't notice on their way in or out. One employee mentioned the bin at her location gets used far less than she'd expect, mostly because it's tucked in a spot most customers walk right past without looking closely. If you've been holding on to a growing pile of plastic bags at home with nowhere to take them, this is worth checking for on your next visit. I actually brought in a small bag of accumulated plastic bags myself during a recent trip specifically to test this, and dropping them off took less than 30 seconds, no questions asked, no purchase required at all. Up next is a small courtesy that a surprising number of employees are happy to provide if you simply ask. Number 6. Help carrying heavier purchases out to your car. This isn't an official, formally advertised policy plastered on a sign anywhere, but multiple employees told me they're genuinely happy to help a customer carry a heavier load, cat litter, cases of water, larger storage bins, out to a vehicle if asked directly, especially during a slower moment in their shift. This is exactly the kind of thing that benefits anyone with mobility concerns or difficulty managing a heavy cart alone, but very few people think to simply ask, either out of not wanting to bother someone or just not realizing it's something staff are generally willing to do. One employee specifically told me she wishes more customers would ask, since standing around waiting for something to do during a quiet stretch is far less appealing than a genuine chance to help someone out. If a heavier purchase is ever a physical struggle for you, it's worth simply asking at the register whether someone's available to help you out to your car. I watched an employee help an older shopper load a case of water and a large storage bin into her trunk during a quiet mid-morning stretch, a small gesture that clearly meant a lot more to her than it cost the employee in time or effort. The next item is one most people don't even realize is a request they're allowed to make. Number 7. Extra bags for double bagging heavier or fragile items at no additional charge. If you're worried about a bag splitting under the weight of canned goods or breakable items, most cashiers will double bag on request, without any pushback or extra fee. Something that isn't always the case at every retailer. Some places charge a small fee per bag, regardless of how many you use. This matters more than it sounds for anyone managing a heavier or more fragile haul on a single trip, particularly if you're walking any real distance to a car or relying on public transportation where a bag failure mid-trip is a genuine, frustrating problem rather than just a minor inconvenience. Simply mentioning you'd like items double-bagged before checkout begins is typically all it takes. I tested this specifically on a trip with several canned goods, mentioning it before bagging started, and the cashier double-bagged the heavier items without a second thought or any indication this was an unusual request. Moving on to something that can genuinely save you from an unnecessary return trip. Number 8. Free returns and exchanges without a receipt for lower dollar amounts, handled at the store's discretion. While policies can vary somewhat by location and situation, several employees mentioned that for smaller, lower-cost items specifically, a return or exchange without an original receipt is often still possible, particularly if the item is clearly from this store and in its original, unused condition. This isn't a guaranteed, universal promise, and it does come down to the specific store and staff member helping you that day. But it's worth knowing that a missing receipt doesn't automatically mean you're stuck with something that didn't work out, especially for the lower-priced items typical of this particular store. If you've ever hesitated to even attempt a return simply because you'd misplaced a receipt for a $1 or $2 item, it's worth asking rather than assuming it's not possible. One employee mentioned handling several receipt-free exchanges a week for small items, treating it as a normal, low-friction part of the job rather than an exception she had to think twice about granting. The next item is one that quietly rewards you for being a repeat, regular shopper. Number 9. Free samples during in-store promotional or vendor demo days. Periodically, certain locations host promotional sampling events for new snack or food products, typically set up near the front of the store or in a specific aisle, offering a small free taste with no purchase required to try it. These don't happen constantly or at every single location, but keeping an eye out for a small table or cart with a vendor representative during your regular shopping trips can occasionally turn into a genuinely enjoyable free bonus, along with a chance to try something new before deciding whether it's worth adding to your cart. One shopper mentioned stumbling into one of these completely by accident and ending up trying 3 new snack items she ended up loving and buying regularly afterward. It's not something to plan a trip specifically around, but worth noticing if you happen to be in the right place at the right time. I personally caught one of these sampling days entirely by chance during my research for this video, trying a new seasonal snack that ended up genuinely surprising me. A small, pleasant bonus layered on top of an otherwise routine shopping trip. Up next is a small courtesy around damaged goods that more people should know to ask about. Number 10. Price adjustment consideration on items with minor cosmetic damage, at the discretion of store staff. If you notice an item with a slightly dented can, a torn corner of packaging, or similar minor cosmetic imperfection that doesn't affect the actual product inside, some employees are willing to offer a small additional discount beyond the shelf price if you simply point it out and ask politely. This isn't a formal, advertised policy you can count on every single time, and it varies significantly by store and by staff members' discretion in the moment, but several employees confirmed they'll accommodate this kind of request when it's reasonable and the damage is genuinely minor and cosmetic only. It's a small thing, but worth a polite ask if you notice something slightly imperfect sitting on a shelf that you'd otherwise walk past entirely. I actually tested this on a slightly toothed can of vegetables, and the cashier knocked a small amount off the price without hesitation once I pointed it out, confirming this really is treated as a routine, reasonable request rather than something out of the ordinary. The next item is genuinely useful for anyone managing multiple small errands in a single outing. Number 11. Use of a shopping cart or basket to hold items across a longer, multi-stop errand run, if a staff member is asked and it's a slower moment for the store. While this obviously isn't something to rely on constantly, and stores understandably need their carts on hand for other customers, a few employees mentioned occasionally accommodating a request to briefly use a cart to help transport a large haul the short distance to a car if someone is genuinely struggling and it's not a busy period. This is very much a courtesy extended at individual discretion rather than any kind of guaranteed policy, and it's absolutely fine if a specific employee or moment isn't able to accommodate it, but it doesn't hurt to ask politely if you're in a genuine bind with an unusually heavy haul and no cart of your own nearby. One employee mentioned this exact situation coming up occasionally with someone managing several bulky items on foot without a car nearby, and being glad to help out with a spare cart for the short walk to a bus stop or a nearby apartment. And finally, the one that surprised me the most, sitting right at a specific counter that almost every single person walks straight past without a second glance. Number 12. free water while you shop, available at some locations with an in-store water fountain, or a small designated water station near the restrooms. This sounds almost too simple to include, but during a longer shopping trip, especially in warmer months, having access to free drinking water is a genuinely appreciated, completely overlooked amenity that most customers don't even think to look for, let alone use. Not every single location has this set up the same way. Some have a proper water fountain, others might just have a small station near an employee area, but it's worth a quick look around if you're doing a longer shopping trip and didn't bring water with you. One employee laughed when I asked about this specifically, saying she can count on one hand the number of customers she's actually seen use it in her time working there, despite it being available the entire time. She mentioned most people simply don't think to look for it, assuming a store like this wouldn't bother with something like a water station, when in reality, it's been sitting there quietly the whole time for anyone who happens to notice it. So that's the full list. 12 genuinely free things this store offers that almost nobody I spoke with already knew about going in. To be completely clear again, none of these are official senior discounts, and I don't want anyone walking away from this video expecting a guaranteed percentage taken off at the register simply for their age, because that specific thing doesn't exist here. What does exist is a collection of smaller, real courtesies and services that add up to genuine value if you simply know they're an option and are comfortable asking. Personally, the balloon inflation and the rewards app are the two I think are most consistently available and most worth taking advantage of regularly, since both require essentially no extra effort once you know about them. The others, the help carrying items, the price adjustments on damaged goods, the receipt-free returns, all come down more to individual store culture and the specific employee helping you that day, which means results may vary more than you'd like, but costs you absolutely nothing to simply ask about. If there's one habit worth building after watching this, it's simply asking more questions at the register rather than assuming the answer is no before you've actually tried. Because based on everything I found putting this list together, a surprising number of these small, genuine perks are sitting right there waiting for someone to finally ask. I also want to add a word about consistency, since I think it's an important, honest caveat to close on. Every single item on this list depends to some degree on the specific store, the specific employee, and even the specific moment you happen to walk in. A quiet Tuesday morning with a relaxed staff member is a very different situation than a packed Saturday afternoon with a long line building up behind you, and it's reasonable to expect a warmer, more accommodating response in the first scenario than the second. None of that means these perks aren't real. It just means approaching them with a friendly, patient, low-pressure attitude will get you much further than expecting any of these as an absolute guaranteed right every single time. The people working these registers are doing their best to balance helping individual customers with keeping a line moving, and a little grace and a genuine smile when you ask tend to go a long way toward getting a yes. Building a small, polite habit of asking, rather than assuming, is really the core lesson underneath this entire list, and it's a habit that tends to pay off well beyond just this one specific store if you carry it with you into other parts of your regular shopping routine too.